Ladies and gentlemen, what you're witnessing is the assembly of the most powerful anti-establishment strike force in American history. Trump's appointment of RFK Jr. as HHS Secretary isn't just a nomination, it's a declaration of war on Big Pharma's empire. Kennedy's Capitol Hill meetings, they're sending shockwaves through the pharmaceutical industrial complex. Meanwhile, billionaire Marc Andreessen joins the DOGE task force as an unpaid volunteer, promising a top-to-bottom audit of every government regulation. The deep state isn't just nervous, they are terrified, and for the first time, outsiders with real power are about to expose decades of corruption. And while Trump's team turns up the heat on the deep state, you can stay warm without breaking the bank. This revolutionary portable heater is exactly what you need for those long nights following the government takedown. Just plug it into any outlet and enjoy instant warmth while you track RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearings. Don't let Biden's energy crisis freeze you out of comfort. Visit staywarmnow.com for an incredible 60% discount and free shipping. Join the thousands of patriots who've already discovered the secret to affordable wealth. Warmth. That's my other ad. Order now before the deep state tries to regulate this too. Okay, so RFK Jr. on Capitol Hill storming the swamp. But something equally as shocking just happened. You heard about this, right? It was George Stephanopoulos. Something went wrong. What happened, George? Well, I guess George decided that he was going to leave X. Yeah, couldn't take the heat. Mario Nawfal. Now, this happened a couple days ago. George Stephanopoulos deletes his X account after defamation lawsuit loss. He deleted his X account after losing a high-profile defamation lawsuit against Trump. The case ended in Trump's favor, leaving Stephanopoulos silent on the platform. Oh, it's bad. It's really bad. Now, I want to bring this also to your attention. Sarah Reese Jones posted this. I don't even really know who she is. I guess, okay, she's a White House political analyst for Politicus USA Media Requests, and she loves democracy and her dog. Okay, so this is Sarah Reese Jones. Okay, I'm not entirely familiar with her work, but this post that she made really caught my attention. She says ABC's decision will have a chilling effect on what's reported about Trump and his administration over the next 4 years. It would be foolish to pretend that this lawsuit settlement won't have consequences for informing the American people. Yeah, a chilling effect, she says, this lawsuit. Well, here's my response to Sarah Reese Jones. If there was ever a bad take, it's this post right here. The only effect that this lawsuit will have is forcing lunatics and liars like Joy Reid, Rachel Maddow, and all the other media whores who've been deceiving the American people to stop and actually think before they open their filthy pie holes on camera ever again. Yes. So this lawsuit is huge. This is a big frickin' deal. Because how long have we been deconstructing and pushing back on all of the lies? You've seen all the clips I've played of Joy Reid over and over again. You know I can't stand her. I mean, how many more legal notes does The View have to present? Because they run their mouths. Well, now it's game over. Western Lensman posted this 5 hours ago. A glum Jake Tapper is upset about the Trump $15 million settlement in lawsuit against ABC and his suing other media outlets. He calls it wildly ridiculous. Today, Trump mentioned the Des Moines Register, 60 Minutes, Bob Woodward, and Russiagate reporters. Legacy media is finally starting to be held accountable, and that makes Jake Tapper nervous. Tapper is also involved in a lawsuit brought against CNN by a Navy veteran whom Tapper smeared with false claims about the veteran's work extracting people from Afghanistan. Yeah, Jake Tapper is at the center of a $1 billion lawsuit against CNN. And he should probably think twice before making remarks like this.
We should note, Kristen, I don't want to overstate Trump's friendliness and genial attitude at this press conference, because this weekend ABC News agreed to pay $16 million, including legal fees, to settle a defamation lawsuit brought by Trump against the network and their anchor, George Stephanopoulos. And that obviously will not be the end of this campaign against the media, legal campaign against the media. We heard him go after many other news outlets today. Take a listen.
Well, I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper. We're filing one on 60 Minutes. We're involved in one which has been going on for a while and very successfully against Bob Woodward. We have one, very interestingly, on Pulitzer, because reporters at the New York Times, Washington Post got Pulitzer Prizes for their wonderful, accurate, and highly professional reporting on the Russia hoax.
We don't have time to go into all of that, but just to touch base on a couple. There's one of them is the people of Iowa, the Des Moines Register. That's because there was a poll that was inaccurate. Mm-hmm. The one on 60 Minutes is because they didn't like the editing that had been done to the Kamala Harris.
Oh, come on. The editing? Yeah, they completely changed her answers. So I think that's a pretty legit lawsuit, Jake.
I mean, this is wildly ridiculous.
Well, one of the things to keep in mind here is that Donald Trump feels like he won. I mean, this weekend, by having a settlement with ABC, one that many people did not think was going to come to fruition. They thought that this would end up in court, or that it would certainly not be a settlement in which ABC paid $16 million and issued a public apology, which was part of this, has been a situation which has empowered and emboldened Donald Trump.
We should note,
Chris. Good. Let him have it. Let them all have it. Maybe for once, they will think before they speak. Now, RFK Jr. is on Capitol Hill meeting with senators ahead of his confirmation hearing. Senator Mitch McConnell apparently has issued a stern warning to RFK and Trump's nominees not to be critical of vaccines. Really? Huh. Don't be critical. I wonder if those lobbyists are padding his pockets.
Health and Human Services. Natasha, Trump's pick for HHS Secretary RFK Jr. is headed to Capitol Hill this week for his first round of meetings with senators. All of this in an effort to get the votes he needs to get confirmed in the Senate. RFK Jr. facing a big test this week on Capitol Hill, reportedly holding a series of one-on-one meetings with senators ahead of his expected confirmation hearings. But the Health and Human Services Secretary nominee expected to face a lot of questions from both sides of the aisle over his stated skepticism about vaccines. This also follows a report that a lawyer advising RFK about the HHS role, Aaron Siri, filed a petition in 2022 to revoke government approval for the polio vaccine, widely credited with eradicating the crippling disease in much of the world. Siri later stating he was talking about one specific polio vaccine that's been in use since the 1990s. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who survived polio as a child, had a stern warning to all of Trump's nominees following the revocation report, saying, quote, "Efforts to undermine public confidence in proven cures are not just uninformed, they're dangerous. Anyone seeking the Senate's consent to serve in the upcoming administration would do well to steer clear of even the appearance of association with such efforts." Despite the backlash to the report and Democrats' repeated criticism over RFK's vaccine stance, some lawmakers are open to discussing any common ground that they may share with Kennedy.
I look forward to sitting down and talking with him. Obviously, vaccines, whether it's polio or COVID, have saved millions and millions of lives, and I strongly support vaccines. On the other hand, what I will tell you, and we had a hearing on this recently, is the food industry, through their processed foods, are helping to cause obesity in this country.
Trump, for his part, tells Time magazine that Kennedy doesn't disagree with all vaccines, but the president-elect adds a, quote, big discussion is coming on vaccines given to children, even floating the disproven claim that vaccines cause autism, saying, quote, the autism rate is at a level that nobody ever believed possible. If you look at things that are happening, there's something causing it. We're going to be able to do very serious testing, and we'll see the numbers.
Now, he never said it, but he said we're going to ask questions, we're going to investigate, which should be well within our right? And here's Donald Trump. He makes it very clear he's not going to be taking away anyone's vaccines.
Come out of this.
First, on vaccines, do you want RFK Jr. to revoke any vaccines?
No, I want him to come back with a report as to what he thinks. We're going to find out a lot. We're doing two things. We're going to have tremendous cost savings will come out of this. That's a minimum. And we're also going to have, and I think, very serious discussions about certain things, whether it's pesticides. Europe doesn't use pesticides, and yet they have a better mortality rate than we do. They don't use pesticides. In fact, they use it as an excuse not to take our farm product. We spend billions and billions of dollars on pesticides. And something bad's happening. Again, you take a look at autism today versus 20, 25 years ago, it's like not even believable. So we're going to have reports. No, nothing's going to happen very quickly. I think you're going to find that Bobby he's a very rational guy. I found him to be very rational. No, nothing, you're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen. I saw what happened with the polio. I have friends that were very much affected by that. I have friends from many years ago, and they have obviously they're still in not such good shape because of it. And many people died. And the moment they took that vaccine, it ended. Dr. Jonas Salk did a great job. So I don't anticipate.
First.
So, the media wants to drum up a lot of fear about RFK. And C-SPAN published this. This was from that same speech.
People who are worried.
Can I follow up on Robert Kennedy? He's on the Hill today. He's meeting with senators. What do you say to people who are worried that his views on vaccines will translate into policies that will make their kids less safe?
No, I think he's going to be much less radical than you would think. I think he's got a very open mind, or I wouldn't have put him there. He's going to be very much less radical. But there are problems. I mean, we don't do as well as a lot of other nations, and those nations use nothing. And we're going to find out what those problems are. And another thing that came up, the dinner was fascinating because I had Bobby and I had, again, the head of Pfizer. You know who that is. He's a highly respected man who has run an incredible company. Likewise with Lilly, the top two people. And we had the head of the industry also. So all companies were represented. And I said, let's have it out now a little bit. And you know what came out of that meeting is that we're paying far too much because we're paying much more than other countries. And we have laws that make it impossible to reduce. And we have a thing called the middleman. You know the middleman, right? The horrible middleman that makes more money, frankly, than the drug companies, and they don't do anything except they're a middleman. We're going to knock out the middleman. I'm going to be very unpopular after that statement.
Mr. President,
I don't know who these middlemen are, but they are rich as hell. And we're going to knock out the middlemen. We're going to get drug costs down at levels that nobody has ever seen before. And that really, I tell you, we spent more time talking about that with Bobby and with the executives and Oz, all of them. We spent more time talking about that than anything else.
Thanks, President Trump. What about the polio vaccine?
Well, I'm a big believer in it, and I think everything should be looked at, but I'm a big believer in the polio vaccine, the Salk vaccine.
Do you think schools...
So, RFK, making big waves, Donald Trump reacting. We're going to get to some of that footage from Capitol Hill in a minute, but this was posted 13 hours ago. Jon Stewart and Bernie Sanders. Jon Stewart talking about getting dogpiled by the left for agreeing with RFK Jr.
Change, but because what I find is there is a gag reflex from, and I think both parties have it, a gag reflex on Robert Kennedy says, ultra processed foods are killing Americans. And I'm like, yeah,
That's right.
god awful. That's got to change. But if you were to say that, boy, are you just dogpiled. How can you agree with Robert Kennedy Jr. on anything? He's this and that. And Elon Musk says we've got waste and inefficiency in the government. And we're like, yeah, we've been yelling about that for years. And as soon as you do that, how can you? How dare you? It's really interesting.
John, that is exactly what the challenge is. I'm holding you here.
Because
isn't that wild to hear that coming from Jon Stewart and Bernie Sanders? Oh, yeah. RFK Jr., he was hounded by the propaganda media questioning his views. He's never once said he's anti-polio or anti-vaccine. He just wants studies and safety.
Oh, I see four. How do you feel about the vaccines? Polio vaccines, Mr. Kennedy. Polio vaccines involve polio. You're all for it?
What about the childhood vaccine?
Sorry. Are you all for the polio vaccine? Mr. Kennedy, what is your view on abortion?
Oh, I see four. Mr. Kennedy, you still believe that childhood autism...
Mr. Kennedy, are you pro-choice? Mr. Kennedy, what's your views on American farming? What would you like to change? Mr. Kennedy, what's your priority for the first couple of days?
Do you think autism is linked to vaccines?
Oh, man. They are just chasing him around. Here's this is good. This is from End Tribalism in Politics. They posted this. Senator Rick Scott, RFK Jr., as is after RFK Jr.'s first meeting on Capitol Hill, they declares it went great.
The HHS Secretary, a great meeting with Robert Kennedy. I really appreciate his message. As you know, I used to be in the hospital business. I think it's great to have an HHS Secretary that is going to focus on the health of America, which is the most important thing we ought to do. I think for all of us, what we're thinking about is how do we stay healthy every day. And finally, we're going to have an HHS Secretary that wakes up every day and says, how do we keep everybody healthy in this country? He's going to have a lot of opportunity to do that. I'm completely supportive of what he wants to accomplish, and I wish him the best of luck.
So that's a good first meeting. Here's RFK saying the meetings went well.
Senators, how are they? Hi, Mr. Kennedy, can you tell us anything about your meetings today with senators? How are they going? Have they been productive?
Very productive.
Very productive?
Very productive meetings on Capitol Hill with RFK. So this is going to be a confirmation hearing to watch. Let's throw it back to RFK Jr. talking about trusting the experts.
Not a feature of this phrase, trust the experts. It's not a thing. It certainly is not a feature of democracy. It's not a feature of science. In science, you don't trust the experts. Never. No, I've had over 500 cases. And in each one of them, there was scientific controversy, and there was experts on both sides. When I sued Monsanto, Monsanto came in with experts from Stanford, Harvard, and Yale. My wife, who's an actor, came to court that day, on the last day of their testimony. She watched these people, and then afterwards, and they're so convincing. She walked out and she said, "Why are you even troubling this poor company?" To me. And I would like, wait till tomorrow. The next day, we had our experts from Harvard, Stanford, and Yale, and the jury gave us $2.2 billion. They had heard both of them, and they had to decide which expert is lying. And experts have their own prejudice, they have their own biases, and their own ambitions, et cetera. And so it's not, trusting the experts is not a feature of science. It's not a feature of democracy. It's a feature of religion and totalitarianism. But it's not something we do.
Yeah. Give them hell, man. Give them hell. Here's RFK Jr. This was published 10 hours ago by Chemists. RFK Jr. threatens to prosecute medical journals for fraud under racketeering laws.
can they be are presenting themselves to medical professionals as an arbiter of truth and as a neutral referee and a reliable referee of the truth. And they know that those medical professionals are relying on journal articles to treat patients, and that if they tell a lie, if they're committing fraud, that they can injure and kill people. So, I believe they can be prosecuted, and not only can they be prosecuted for those injuries, but they can be prosecuted on the racketeering statutes or promoting fraud. So I'm going to do that as soon as I get in there.
Oh, buckle up. Buckle up. Justice is coming. Yeah, George Stephanopoulos. Bye-bye. And here's billionaire Marc Andreessen says he's an unpaid volunteer for DOGE. They will not be just performing a top-to-bottom review of government spending. They're going to be doing the same thing for regulations.
Intern for speaking of sort of the next administration and the government, some have reported that you are considering in the running, I don't know what the right word is, to join DOGE.
Oh.
Is this true at all?
I am an unpaid volunteer.
You're an unpaid intern for the new Department of Government Efficiency.
Yes.
What do you think it's going to do?
There's basically two big parts to it. One is they're going to do a top to bottom review of government spending, and they're going to go cut as much cost as they possibly can, and they have a whole theory and strategy on that. And then in conjunction with that and related to that, they're going to do the same thing for regulations. So they're going to basically do a top to bottom review of the regulatory, what we call the regulatory state or the administrative state, and the connective tissue there that they don't talk about in public is I think actually quite important. Which is like a lot of the reaction of the DOGE from like institutional Washington is like, well, that's impossible. You can't do that. There are all these laws and statutes and regulations. There's this thing. You know the term impoundment?
Yes.
Yeah. So
like
impoundment for those
impounded.
No, so impoundment normally means as a civilian, it normally means like your car gets impounded.
Yeah.
There's a different use of the word in the context of government spending. Impoundment is the principle in law today that the president has to go to Congress to get money for a program.
Mm-hmm.
The president is not allowed to either overspend or underspend.
What?
So the president is obligated to spend the money whether he thinks it's a good idea or not.
That's insane.
On every government program. Look up impoundment. The president is required by law to spend every dollar allocated by Congress, whether he thinks it's a good idea to or not. And so the president literally, like legally, quote unquote, today can't actually save money. He can't say, I'm just not going to spend on this. He has to spend the money. So this is like how crazy and like weird the thing has. By the way, the Constitution, there's a very good argument that's been litigated for a long time. The Constitution does not actually say this. The Constitution says the president needs to go get money from Congress. It doesn't say that he has to spend the money. So like this is the kind of constitutional question. Like we've been living under a regime in which there's a lot of these things that have been taken for granted that are probably not constitutional. So like that's one of the things that I'm sure is going to get looked at.
Just because you're brilliant in one area doesn't mean you're brilliant in another. You know, like
Who knew? Oh, yeah. You can have the money, but you don't got to spend it all. And this is a day ago. Senator-elect Adam Schiff says Americans didn't vote for Trump to see him pardon criminals involved in January 6th. Yeah, and Americans didn't vote for Biden to see him pardon his son either, right? Elon Musk coming out saying, Schiff is a criminal. He quote tweeted this very tweet right here. Here is the moment. Again, we'll throw back to when RFK Jr. stormed the swamp today.
Keep moving.
Yeah, I got you.
Mr. Kennedy, what is your view on abortion?
Now, that's just another angle from the other shot that we saw. But, you know, things are happening, friends, and it's beautiful to witness. We have to ask questions. We have to have investigations. And we have to make sure that the health and well-being of all Americans is a top priority. You know, thankfully, Senator Scott, you know, he sees that. And, you know, that meeting went well. More meetings are going to happen. I mean, seeing Bernie Sanders and Jon Stewart, like, talking about, you know, supporting RFK Jr., those types of people, they're very influential, and their message is going to permeate down to the base, and then it's going to trickle back up to the senators and representatives. So this is all good news, friends. And the pieces are falling into place. RFK Jr. is promising to prosecute medical journals under RICO laws while the DOGE task force prepares to demolish the regulatory state. But here's the question as the global is trembling. What happens when Trump's dream team starts unsealing the documents that expose decades of pharmaceutical and regulatory corruption? What happens next? You can show your support for the Great Awakening with our new Mag Avengers collection at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Patriots know about the coming storm, so make sure you get it. Yeah, that's Elon Musk on that picture. Elon and Ron Paul. So make sure you get it. They're not just clothes, they are battle flags for the final takedown of the deep state machine.